Takeshita is a professor at the School of Management and Information at the University of Shizuoka.
I would say that this was more like an anger vote. In other words, the public anger towards the corruption that we saw on the money scandal by the LDP. Of course, because the LDP and Komeito could not hold the majority, it will be very much similar, possibly like the political situation that you see in Europe, where you might find a lot of small type of coalitions that would form a government.
Yeah, you touched upon this just now, so let's talk about those scandals behind the result. A series of them seem to have moved traditionally consistent Japanese voters to express their dissatisfaction with the LDP.
Well, it was also a bad timing that the new alleged scandal kicked in just before the election time, so certainly it was negative. And one real negative issue about this is that this is not only in politics, but, in every sorts of situation, including the sports or, business, the monopoly is not something that is good because it calls for corruption. And in Japan, we have a monopoly in politics. In other words, LDP basically, running the show all the time. If we have a stronger opposition, and we need an opposition that would put LDP on their toes, it would have been a different story. So what I feel is most necessary for Japan is for the opposition to basically come to a strength that could basically worry the LDP members.
Yeah, so are you saying that this could be an opportunity for a stronger opposition to be born?
Oh, yes, definitely. It's always been the case. But unfortunately, the Japanese opposition tend to be very problematic in their, I would say, inducing their policy. Back in 2009 to 2012, DPJ, then the Democratic Party of Japan, took over. And the Japanese saw how horrible their implementation powers were because, well, basically, it's not really the politicians that's really running the show in Japan. In often cases, it's the bureaucrats. And you have to have a very good pipeline in order to implement your policy, which the DPA could not do at all. And their, governing was so horrible that the Japanese have definitely backed away. This time around, people really got sick and tired of this, a continuous corruption that took place. So I would say this is more like the revolution of anger against the LDP by the Japanese public.
And you touched upon this as well, that the LDP will now have to work with more than one party. Will this make decision-making and change in Japan harder, especially with an economy that badly needs growth, with inflation, stagnant wages, high prices?
It would make it difficult, naturally, because obviously they would have to get a consensus from different groups. And obviously these different groups, even if they may be small, they'll be asking, for their policy to be implemented. So obviously it wouldn't be a one, I would say, unified source. It would be multiple, meaning that, the decision-making process will be slowed down. And for that reason, yes, it could cause confusion. But this is what Ishiba-san had been saying recently, that, the government must reveal the opinion of the public. And the public voted very much for, the opposition this time. So he's almost showing a stance that he's willing to open up to listen to many of the propositions by the opposition, or I would say new partner to that, they will merge with.